Welcome back to F1 Rolling Start with James and
Ben.
And we are so excited to talk about the Dutch Grand Prix.
It has been a minute.
It's been 4 weeks.
You know, all these F1 drivers, their break was a little different than our break. I'll just start there. They're all in the Med.
They're in the Med. They're in the Mediterranean. Lewis Hamilton is having like existential spiritual experiences in Africa.
Of course.
George Russell is like in the south of France. I think Alex Albon and Liam Lawson went to Germany to the Nürburgring and were like driving around together.
Why not?
You know what I was doing? Sitting on my couch, suffering through the Olympics, looking at all of these people who work their entire lives for something once every 4 years and just saying, this pales in comparison to Formula One. It's like a long trip and you get home and you see your kids for the first time and they come running to you and your heart is pounding. It's like that, but times 10 because Formula One is back.
I was watching qualifying and it felt like I was breathing oxygen again.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I've missed this so much. I was telling my boys, I was like, boys, guess what? This weekend. And they were like looking at me cheeky. And I was like, Max. I mean, we'll get to Max because he didn't show up this weekend, but
sure did.
It is so good for F1 to be back. Yeah. The last 4 weeks, I was working my tail off. I wasn't on no vacation.
You were not on vacation. You were working your butt off. And
you were working your butt off.
I was working my butt off. It was actually a good little break because little breaks make you appreciate what you have.
Yes.
It also like reminds me that I have the absolute understanding of what it is like to be addicted to crack cocaine and be without your supply. And I'm so nervous for the winter break.
I don't know what
I don't know what I'm going to do this year. This is just, it's awful. But anyway, we're going to dive into the race in just a moment because it is the first week back. And what a great week back. Lando Norris takes pole position in qualifying and goes on to win the race.
One of the first races where the pole winner was also the actual race winner.
Yes. Max had won something like 4 or 5 of the last races from, or his last races from second position. So I was ready for him to come out swinging at the track that he's never lost at.
Yes.
Ever.
His home race.
But he ended in P2 and Charles Leclerc, good old Chuck, was in third place. Complete stupor across his face.
So happy. He was just like, just happy to be here, guys. Just didn't expect to be here today. I've got 2 third places in the last 2 races. What?
Both him and Carlos after the race were like, I don't know. I don't know, man.
Mean,
I thought we our prediction said 6th place.
I know.
My goodness.
Ferrari and Mercedes kind of felt like they swapped.
Yes. Fred Vasseur walked down the pit lane and he pulled out the Formula One equivalent of an Uno reverse card and gave it to Toto Wolff and was like, got him.
Toto, after Hamilton qualified, whatever abysmal place it was just like, oh,
what are we doing? What is happening? But before, again, we're going to get in there in a minute. Just calm down.
We'll get into all that juicy deets.
There was some things that happened over the course of the summer break. Literally, I don't think we were 24 hours into it before news started popping off. Yes. I could hear the Drive to Survive.
Yep.
You know, the little like tweets and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so first and foremost, Matteo Binotto, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm not Italian.
Yeah.
He is at Audi.
He came down from his vineyard in the mountains back into Formula One.
Yeah. What does this mean for the team?
Well, he was obviously at Ferrari for several years. I like Matteo. I was bummed that he got ousted.
Great hair.
Oh God. And the glasses, phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a talent. Obviously he understands the world of Formula One. I think that this lends credibility to a new team. And this shows intent.
Yeah.
It shows that they want to be competitive. They want to have someone who's won, who understands what that looks like. And so, they brought him back. And I'm happy that they did.
What's interesting about that is that they did not make him the team principal.
Yeah.
they actually stole Jonathan Wheatley from Red Bull and brought him over to be the team principal. And so it's kind of cool. It really does feel like Audi is trying to really set themselves up for a really large future, taking on, I mean, Jonathan Wheatley, he was there for the last 6 Constructors champion and all 7 of Max's. He's been a pivotal part of the team.
Yeah.
And, it's clear to me that Audi is trying to move forward for the future. But what does that mean for Red Bull? Like, how does this affect their team dynamics? They've now lost Adrian Newey.
Yeah.
They've got all of the drama with Horner
still.
Whose case, again, came back up, and they said they're happy with the results. They're not going to press it any further. So that seems like it could be a nice little close. Finally. She doesn't seem very happy. She's still going after. And, you've got him saying that Liam's going to be in a Formula One car. They're open to renting him out to another team. Meanwhile, Helmut's saying no, he'll be in a Red Bull car. So it still feels like there's some like internal trauma. There's trauma and drama. And then also Jonathan leaves and Adrian Newey's gone. And now their car is not really performing like it used to either.
Well, the one phrase that comes to mind is when it rains, it pours. The last 2 seasons obviously have been these mountaintop seasons, last year especially. I mean, and they understood this isn't normal.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't
totally
a normative state of being. So last year it's just raining success. And this year, yes, they're still in first place. Yeah. Yes, Max is still in first place in the drivers. Both things are at risk. Yeah. Both things are for play.
For sure.
And there's all these fractures within the team. And people are starting to leave. Key folks. And this is the thing too, like today, and we mentioned this before we started, when Max loses by 22 seconds.
Yeah, almost 23.
To Lando. I'm looking around, I'm like, when do we just say, like, maybe Red Bull's feeling Adrian Newey's absence?
Yeah.
Like, and again, not everything lands on one person. But we would say everything lands on Max. When Max was pulling wins out when he shouldn't have, we'd point to Max and say, car wasn't the fastest. McLaren had a faster car, but you pulled it out.
That's a very good point.
So Adrian's one of those people on the back end where it's like, listen, it matters who's designing the freaking car. And when he's not there anymore, and they're like, no, we're going to be fine. Don't pay any attention here. It's like, well, you just lost by 22 seconds.
Literally.
At Max's home race after he had a new engine in the car.
Yes.
Like, so all that being said, I think there's just fractures at Red Bull. They're not on the same page. Marco, Horndog, obviously those guys are like, got things
fire and ice right now. It's crazy.
So I don't know. I mean, I think for Red Bull, they've got to get some consistency. Yeah. They tried by offering Sergio the extra deal to kind of stabilize things a bit.
Yep.
Today was his best performance. I want to get this right here, so let me make sure I'm fact checking myself.
Checo's best performance
since. Wait a second. Hang a second.
Oh no, Ben, this is getting awkward. You're in the qualifying tab.
No,
there we go.
There we go. Best performance since Miami.
That's a long time.
So anyway, I'm not convinced Red Bull has turned a page to something better.
No, I think you're right. I wonder if after a year of dominance like they had, part of the reason why we do see some people leaving isn't just the drama between the team principal and the internal politics that everyone keeps hearing about, but just the message and the feeling of something being unstable. Like, you, as a child, when mom and dad are fighting, it's an awkward tension at home. It's like, imagine that with 1,000 children. That's Red Bull as an organization. You know that something's going on behind closed doors. You know that people are walking around on eggshells. You never quite really know where you stand. The added bonus is that it's not like they're Audi, where everyone's just like, man, I really hope I make it.
Yeah.
And I can stick in here because I'm the worst team.
Yeah.
Kick is the worst team on the grid. Like,
awful.
No one wants me. These are the best people.
Yes.
After a year of absolute and complete dominance.
Yes.
And everyone wants them. So when Jonathan Wheatley gets the phone call, it's like, hey, come on down to this thing that we're doing down here. We're turning the whole thing around.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, I think like that's a great point. One of the things I'm thinking about, and there's some comparisons here to other teams. I think back to championship franchises. There becomes a moment where you just kind of have to split the team up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't keep everyone because either they're past their prime or like what they deserve now, like you can't afford anymore. So I think part of it might just be this natural, like Adrian Newey is rumored that his new contract is double what he was going to be getting staying at Red Bull. Like some of these guys are just, they're worth so much because they come from this dominant team. So I think part of it is maybe a natural kind of regress. Part of it might be, and this is maybe like giving the significant benefit of the doubt. Some of it might be that, opportunity for new challenge, opportunity to like start kind of from scratch in a new environment, in a new team, and see if you can take someone from zero to hero. And like, if you've done that and you've literally won every single race but one race, like, can you do like, that's the top.
Totally.
That's the top. Like, so I think part of it is, and that's me being like optimistic, giving benefit of the doubt, assuming everyone at Red Bull is, hunky dory on the same page, which obviously isn't the case. So,
yeah, I just think it's like since the beginning of the year, it's kind of like there's blood and they just keep bleeding.
It's a different team. And if today is any preview of things to come, which it today very well might not be,
the last 5 races.
Yeah, it's been a minute since Max won.
It's not only been a minute since Max won, it's been a minute since Red Bull has shown up and done a dominant weekend. They've had a good haul of points every once in a while, but it's no longer like, oh yeah, they're going to win it. That was the beginning of the season, and then a switch flipped, and now we are in a place where they could very well lose this. So that was one thing that happened before the break.
The other thing that happened is that Williams all of a sudden now has the best driver lineup in F1.
Okay. James Vow. James, stop it.
You're making me scream. Stop it.
He comes out and says a statement that he has the greatest driver lineup, the strongest drivers lineup for 2025 in Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz.
No one believes that.
He says Alex Albon is underrated, and you're going to see just how good he is when you have one of the best drivers, i.e. Carlos Sainz, in the same car as him next to him. Okay, James. Also, I don't care how good Alex Albon is, and I don't care how good Carlos Sainz is. Oscar and Lando, on any given weekend, you never really know who's going to do it. And you would lean towards Lando and then forget that it's only Oscar's second year in Formula One.
Unreal.
Like, it's insane. Like, they are, in my book, even as a Lewis Hamilton fan, they are the strongest lineup on the field, in my opinion.
Period.
But to talk about our little old friend, the 7-time world champion, you also have him and Chuck LeClerc.
Yep.
Dude.
They're my number 2.
That's crazy. And then just I don't care if Max was driving for kick. Max plus anyone equals one of the strongest lineups because he pulls the weight of 2 drivers.
But it's crazy to think about him, in our humble opinion, not even being in the top 2 strongest driver lineups at this point. And that's really because Sergio has fallen off. But
even if you play it out with anyone that you think would go, him, Liam, him, Danny, him, Yuki.
McLaren's the strongest at this point.
McLaren, in my opinion. They have the strongest. You know
where Williams is at as far as strength of lineup? Okay.
I mean, I would put them above. If we were to do a driver lineup, I would put them above Max and Checo. Next year, if they driver to driver, car aside, Albon and Sainz, from a consistency perspective, I would put them over. Look at Sainz's performance this year. Remember, Albon's performance was, if you go and look, he got kicked for Checo, but he's a different driver now. I think if you would have put, they would definitely.
Carlos is more consistent than Sergio, but not by much. He's 5th in the championship. Sergio is 7th.
Yeah. Okay. This season in a car where in the beginning Checo should have been way better.
Well, of course. But also Ferrari won at the beginning of the season as well.
That's true.
Now, I mean, I wouldn't say Albon and Sainz is a better driver pairing than Max and Sergio.
I did have the thought, like, is Carlos Sainz going to Williams? It feels like a huge risk. Like, it feels like it has the potential to be career suicide. Like,
well, let's see where Williams is at in the Constructors' Championship this year. They are 9th place.
Can he actually elevate this team to new heights?
Well, maybe we'll draw a comparison from someone else who left a lead team to one of the bottom feeders, Bottas. Did Bottas elevate feeders?
Let's check out the old catfish.
Did he elevate them? No, because it comes down to the car. And guess what? Williams' car isn't fast right now. I know there's new regs.
Totally.
I know all that great stuff. But am I confident Williams is actually going to miraculously design a fast car? No.
Yeah.
So Bottas went from Mercedes, where he was winning, literally race winning, constructors champion, to the back of the grid and unfortunately out of our collective consciousness.
Yes.
And it's not his fault. He is a good driver.
Yes.
You put him in a good car, he's going to win.
Yes.
Still. But it comes down to the team. And so I think Sainz is looking at the options, and he was hoping for a better one.
For sure.
And he didn't get it. So, like,
it's interesting because he was between Williams and Audi. He left Audi, and now Audi is kind of figuring out who they want, which brings me to my next kind of recap. Jack Doohan gets the seat at Alpine.
Yes.
Ocon gets the flick.
He
goes to Haas. He's going to be joined by Ollie Behrman. And Jack Doohan, I believe it was last year, he was the F2 champion. And he's been the reserve driver for Alpine, which basically means you just kind of like sit on a simulator throughout the week, do a bunch of like press events. And then if you're not in the car by FP2, you're done for the weekend. So it's just kind of been chilling around. Yeah. And he gets the seat officially, which I think is super cool. But next year, that means that we have a rookie Jack Doohan. It's looking more and more like Mercedes is going to grab Kimi Antonelli, Ollie Behrman, and potentially it's also looking like Liam Lawson, who hasn't had a full season. He would still be probably classified as a rookie.
Yeah.
That's 4 out of 20 drivers.
It's great for the sport.
It's incredible for the sport.
Yeah, because the sport needs new drivers. They need to be able to show blood. They need to be able to show that you can actually get a seat after you've come through the lower formulas. If you can't, then what's the point?
What's the point exactly
of F3? There's no point if all these guys just hang onto their seats.
Yes,
and they never actually get moved on.
And what's crazy is that the last influx of young drivers was Norris, Alex, and Russell.
That's a long time ago.
That was the last like influx.
Wow.
Like we've had new drivers since then, obviously. But the last time we had a big dump of brand new drivers was so many years ago.
Oh yeah.
And
wow.
Here we are looking at next year, 20%. Also, what's funny is that like you have Jack Doohan, he's Aussie.
Mm-hmm.
Liam Lawson, who's from New Zealand, he's a Kiwi. You've got maybe Danny Rick stays on the grid next year. And then you've also got Oscar Piastri. There's 24 million people in Australia. There's 6 million or maybe 5 million in New Zealand. That's 20% of the grid represented by the back end of the world, like literally the butt of the world.
I mean, you're
kind of nuts.
You're from.
I'm from Australia, world, so I can say that. But that's crazy.
It's
to
like
think
me
about.
saying Cleveland's like the armpit of America.
Yeah. What's in the water down there is what I want to know. That they're just growing.
Well, I mean, think about some of the other folk that Australia has blessed the world with.
Nicole Kidman, Hugh Jackman, 100%.
Who else? There's got to be some other ones besides that.
Russell Crowe. Oh, what are you talking about?
Russell Crowe.
Besides that,
Russell Crowe. He's kind of Gladiator. Was it his peak?
Yo,
wait. Beautiful Mind.
Gladiator. Mel Gibson.
Master and Commander. But I'm trying to think of Russell's other movies since then.
He was recently in Thor, God of Love.
He was funny in that, but he was fat in that.
Yeah, he was. Well, he is
funny
fat
and
now.
Fat. No,
yeah, he is
fat.
It's
unfortunate.
Now. He's done, dude. He's old. He's like in his 50s. Like, leave him alone. Mel Gibson's Aussie.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of great Australians. Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Mel Gibson had a little bit of a stint of.
Mel had a bit of a rough patch.
But yeah, you guys bless the world with some great talent.
Yeah,
and
we're
it
amazing.
Extends to F1.
We're amazing, and we extend here. It's pretty cool to think about.
So we got all these new folks coming in.
Which I think is pretty exciting. I think it's also going to shake it up. And what I think is really cool about it is that you have all of these brand new people, and then you've got Fernando Alonso, who just celebrated his 43rd birthday or something.
Yeah.
And
it's been 2 decades since he won.
It's incredible. And you've got the 7-time world champion on the grid. Think about that. Ollie Behrman, Kimi Antonelli, all going onto the grid, who would have started watching probably when Lewis was on in the midst of his prime at Mercedes.
It's an incredible opportunity for them because they have North Stars that they're competing against.
Yes.
They're not actually reading about them in some history book. They're on the grid with them.
Yeah.
Who gets that kind of opportunity?
Yeah.
It's rare in a sport. It's almost impossible in other sports, unless you're LeBron James playing with your son. But he is a one-off. To have someone who has been prolific for decades and still is in the sport.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing.
Yeah. What I think is cool too is that it's going to force, I'm hoping that it forces the riffraff out.
God, please.
So you've got these teams at the bottom side of the grid for I think too long that have been holding on to the kind of mid-pack drivers of the Kevin Magnusons, the Nico Hulkenbergs, which that was probably a bit.
Hulk's been performing.
He's been performing, but the Lance Strolls, the Nepo babies, all of the people that kind of are just existing in F1 and taking up space.
Yeah, it's got to go.
We need fresh blood. If you're not scoring, get out.
There's more drivers than the sport knows what to do with.
Correct.
You got to make space for these guys.
You got to.
Period.
So that's what happened leading into this weekend. And then we get into the weekend. It's Max's 200th Grand Prix.
Yeah.
He was asked if he would do 200 more. And he said no. And they said, do you want to extend your contract past 2028? And he goes, if the sport is fun, we'll just have to cross our bridge when we get there.
I mean,
Max may not be in the sport for much more than 3 years, which is crazy when you think about all of the people that just will hang out there. In his eyes, he will do it as long as it's fun.
Yeah.
And he seems on the fence about the new regulations with the bigger batteries, the more sustainable type engines. Yeah. He's wondering if the sport is going to do it. Williams came into this weekend with a massive upgrade, which seemed to do quite well for Alex Albon, at least, obviously, because it's a story. He qualified high and then got disqualified because the floor of the car was 3 millimeters too wide. So they had to adjust their new car, which seems like a classic small team trying to go big growing pain that they went through.
3 millimeters. What is that? Is it like this?
No, dude. 3 millimeters is so there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, and a centimeter is that big.
Sweet.
So it's we're talking this. Yeah. FIA, suck it. I'm sick and tired of it.
How is that even measurable?
I'm sick and tired of you.
How is that going to impact performance?
There's a word for them. It's called fun sucker. They just suck the fun out of it all. 3 millimeters, bro. Get out of
ridiculous.
here. Whatever. Rules are rules. Rules are rules. I get it.
Logan didn't finish in 20th. He finished in 16th, so that's
impressive.
A perk, I guess.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weekend. But I think what we saw this weekend is McLaren's dominance.
It was dominance. That's absolutely what it was.
Absolutely.
There's no other word for it.
No other word.
They weren't competing. They weren't, Lando wasn't competing. He was absolutely dominating the champion.
Yeah, they were smart. They were concise. Their strategy backed it up, for Lando at least.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was a shadow, a mirror into moments of 2023 with Red Bull's dominance.
Oh, yeah.
They ended, like we've said, almost 23 seconds ahead. And that is, in modern Formula One, an eternity.
Well, especially with
that is an eternity.
Especially with how close all of these teams have gotten in recent races, where there's a race where, multiple drivers are finishing seconds apart, less than a second apart. I mean,
yeah,
it is baffling that McLaren has just kind of flipped the script. You talked about Ferrari handing Mercedes a reverse card. It felt that way with Lando to Max.
100%.
Because when Lando passes Max in the straight and he has DRS, it immediately transported me to all of those moments last year when Max would just blow past competitors, and they just got out of the way. They're like,
yeah,
I'm not.
They gave up at that point.
Yeah, that's literally what it felt like.
And I don't know if we're going to see that level of dominance from McLaren throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's hard to know if it's like a one-off or if it's track specific.
They definitely have it's not a question anymore. Everyone says that they have the strongest car, and they are whom everyone is chasing.
Yes.
They are the dynamic duo of the future, Lando and Piastri. I am convinced it is only going to get better and better. They seem to have 18 months ago, they were kick.
That's crazy.
They were
That's crazy.
At Bahrain with their brakes on fire. The pieces of their front wheel arches were flapping around. It was embarrassing. They are now 18 months later.
Insane. It's insane.
And they are kicking everybody's butt up and down this field. Lando's in a league of his own right now. I felt like he was smooth. He was calculated. He was untouchable. He is McLaren's golden boy, and he has finally arrived and earned that status.
Today felt like a good race for Lando in this way as well. It felt like he kind of overcame some past demons.
For sure.
Was pole, loses out to Max on turn 1, which this is what he's done like 4 to 5 times this season, and doesn't lose his cool, waits, buys his time, lap 18, passes Max, never looks back.
Incredible.
And it was one of those great moments where nobody gave him this win.
Yeah.
He won it fair and square. He dominated the defending world champion. And it was one of those great moments to see a racer like make a mistake and in the same race get the redemption for it.
It was incredible.
It felt like a turning moment for him as a racer to like
it was mature,
For sure. It was great. It was and now they're within 30 points of Red Bull.
As a constructor, they're within 30 points. He's now within 70 points of Max, which is just unreal. There's 9 races to go. There's plenty of opportunity for it to happen. Yeah, Piastri's race was a little bit different. Still finished strong in the points. Just a little bit of a weird strategy thing. Honestly, I think it was a flip of the coin. And they flipped the coin and it went the wrong way. They had a 50-50 chance. Hindsight is everything.
Yeah.
But even he was like, look, it's one of those things after the race, you figure it out, but there was no way to truly know within the race. It was basically a stop. They should have undercut. They didn't. And so he was stuck fighting through the field. The one thing about Piastri is I legitimately forget that this is his second season in F1. And it blows my mind how incredibly mature, how incredibly calm and collected he is. He's the cucumber. We love it. We love the cucumber.
He has a long and shining future in this sport, and he's going to be a world champion.
You're going to do great, mate.
There it is.
Red Bull's wings were clipped. Max Verstappen's home turf advantage was not enough to keep the Bulls charging at the Dutch Grand Prix.
Did you hear the interviewer at the end is talking to Lando? He's like, yeah, you got the Orange Army out here for you. And I was like, does he know where he's at? The Orange Army is not there for Lando.
That is the Orange Army, not the Papaya Army.
They are there for Max. And Lando's like, yeah, we've got some great fans out here. And I was like, dude, they're not here for you. They're here for Max.
I guess his mom was born in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I think I heard
so
that.
he feels like it's quite a home race for him, but he knows that they're not there for him. It's Max's for sure. It was his 200th race, but he was in survival mode.
He was. It has now been, this is the 5th race where he has not won.
Yeah,
in a row.
The Dutch Lion has been tamed.
It's a sobering thing how quick things can change. We talked about how McLaren 18 months ago was kick. Well, not 18 months ago.
10 races ago.
I mean, Red Bull is untouchable. And it's just,
10 races ago, we were literally before and after this show going, how are we going to make the rest of the season worth listening to? Like, it's just, we should just replay every episode from 2023. And now we're losing our minds every week.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Because we don't know what is going to happen. I mean, just this last race, today's race, Mercedes and McLaren were neck and neck through free practice 1, 2, and 3. And then Mercedes just goes nowhere. Ferrari comes charging up, prancing up, those little yellow fiery horse. And Max is in the mix as well with a car that was trash all weekend. Like, it's unreal. So confusing. I absolutely love it.
Last thing I'll say about Max was 22 seconds behind Lando, but he was still second place.
100%.
So, like, yes, bummer, but also, like, you got to tip the hat to Max.
He's exactly where he needs to be to keep this fight going.
It's like he realized that I'm not going to win this, but no one else is going to beat me. And there really was no one else who challenged him. Like, Piastri got kind of stuck behind Chuck. Chuck was never going to catch Max, and so he's like, I'm just going to second place.
The Red Bull car was, and they self-admittedly, it wasn't where it needed to be this weekend. Sergio did pretty well. He started 5th, ended 6th, lost a spot, and he probably had his best race. He didn't do any kind of weird mistake, get in his head. He just drove the race, the car. He just didn't have the right car underneath him this weekend. He didn't have the Red Bull that he needed.
Well, and some of the rumor mills have kind of calmed down during the summer break. Mm-hmm. The team is recommitted after they recommitted to him.
So
like, here's a 2-year contract,
and none of this fills me with confidence to ever
Sergio
work for Red Bull.
Sucks for like 8 races, and they're like, wait a second,
but
they are not going to take him out this season.
No,
I think Disney had something to do with that too.
Don't get me started. There is a documentary coming out on Disney, which I will watch, obviously, and it's about Checo's life. So allegedly,
it's still a meritocracy, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's at least what Lance Stroll tells me. So anyway, Disney apparently had some words with Red Bull about this. Is all conjecture. There's zero fact to this. Check the Gazzetti, but apparently they highly encouraged Formula One not to drop Checo because he is the number 1 driver and most popular driver in North America, and also they have a very expensive documentary coming out hoping to drive not just views to Disney Plus's platform, but also to Formula One,
which is hosted by ESPN, also owned by Disney.
Correct. All the dots are
There's
connected.
No politics here.
No, none at all.
It's just good hard racing.
Okay, so let's talk Ferrari. So the prancing horses, they trotted straight to the front of the field and were completely surprised by it. Chuck ran a smart and strategic race. He secured a podium. And like you said, I'm just happy to be here, man. I'm just happy to be here. It was wild. Carlos had a really solid race from the back to the front.
I mentioned this before.
What a drive.
Carlos is just this metronome of a driver. He has literally been in either like 5th or 6th or, around there this entire season. That's where he is. He's the 5th or 6th best driver this season.
Which is crazy to me because like he's doing what Red Bull wants Checo to do.
Just be consistent.
He quietly clawed his way back. Not because it wasn't his fault that his qualifying was crap, like Checo's has been, which was Checo's fault. It's because the car was crap. And Ferrari was like, yo, we don't know how to turn these tires on. We can't get it to work at qualifying. And then suddenly in the race, it comes alive. He said in the formation lap, he was like, the car feels different. We're going to rip today. And just went for it.
Yeah, no, he was 11th in qualifying.
Yes, it was brutal. But
but then finishes in 5th. Yeah, this is, I think, the bummer for me. I think Max, there's some talk that he didn't want to race alongside Sainz, which is why ultimately it wasn't really an option for him to go to Red Bull, because Max obviously has a say in who he wants to race alongside.
I don't want to. No. Horner, no.
This is different than Stroll, because you're sounding like Stroll. Stroll isn't a multi-world champion, so he doesn't get to have a say. Max, if he's like, hey, I won like 75 races last year.
Yeah, and I don't like him.
He's going to be too competitive.
Yeah, he's too competitive. I like Checo. I want Checo. Or Albon back.
No.
He just wants to push people around.
He just wants to win. But no, Carlos, just consistent. Chuck has seemed to stabilize after Monaco, where he won.
Mm-hmm.
He just fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Had a DNF in Canada, was 5th in Spa. He was 11th and then 14th. But the last 3 races, Hungary, Belgium, and the Dutch Grand Prix, has been 4th, 3rd, and 3rd. So it feels like he's now got 3 races where he's finishing in the top 4, stabilizing a bit. So yeah, I mean, I think they were surprised to perform this well, but they've kind of righted the ship a little bit, because there was a minute where their developments were not. It was
scary. It was the same old with them. We start strong, we flounder.
Yep.
We lose it.
Yep.
And I think it was nerve-wracking for me, because I really am a big Freddie V fan.
Yeah.
And I was like, the V-man, he pulled them together. He got them going. And then I was like, no, he can't beat the beast that is Ferrari. It's too much.
And Ferrari's going to chew him up and spit him out.
Oh, 100%.
Results. Especially if he's got Hamilton.
100%.
He will have Hamilton next
100%. When that's why I was really getting nervous, because I'm like, taking Hammy. And
well, Hammy was getting nervous too.
Yeah, 100%.
You're getting nervous. He's like, wait,
man,
what is happening?
What a freaking letdown Mercedes was this weekend. That was so frustrating to me.
Hamilton did make up 6 places from qualifying.
Yes.
We talked about this before the show, and I'll let our listeners in. He made up 6 places against the back end of the field.
Right.
Russ lost multiple places, but it was against the teams that were just faster today. Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren. So they kind of were the 7th and 8th fastest today.
Yeah.
Which is too bad, because they've been on a rip.
Yeah.
The last several races.
I get what you're saying. He overtook cars that it wouldn't overtake. But how many times has Checo been in a position this season where he's not qualified well and then not fought back well either?
But Checo's not a 7-time world champion.
Checo's in a high performance car.
But there's a difference, though, between a high performance car and a high performance.
Max came back from a pretty low grid position. And also, we praised how many cars he overtook. Were they cars that he was supposed to overtake him?
He's not a world champion.
No, I'm saying Max also did this. The last race at Spa, he fought back. He overtook the cars. Yeah. I'm just saying, it wasn't just a couple cars.
Yeah.
It was a lot of cars.
It was a lot of cars, but it was also cars
at a track where there's one overtaking opportunity.
I know, but it's the GOAT, so we expect the GOAT to perform against inferior drivers in inferior
I don't like when you
cars.
use my own arguments against me.
I'm just saying, he's the best. So obviously, Mercedes didn't want to finish 7th and 8th after they've been winning races.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but McLaren was faster. Red Bull was faster. Ferrari was faster.
Yeah.
So those are the top 6 spots.
I will say it was great. Whatever car he was overtaking, period. Modern day F1 overtaking, we all know it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
Within the first 14 laps, first 16 laps, he had climbed from P14 to P9. And I was like, yo.
I thought he was going to do it.
I thought he was going to do it too. I was like, we're in this. We're in this. Yeah. And then he got stuck behind Stroll. Classic. That
guy needs to get off the.
Yeah. And then after Stroll, he's behind Alonso, and you know how it's like trying to overtake Alonso. And so you never know if he's just gonna. He's the dude in the cartoon with the crazy mustache, like throwing TNT sticks out the back of his Aston Martin at all the cars behind him. He's like strategically dropping his tear offs so that they go into the intake duct. Yeah. And so he ended up getting a little held up, and the car just didn't have what it needed. He said the car felt good. It didn't feel great. Russell was in no man's land. A strategy gone awry.
Yeah.
It was a bummer for him.
It was a rough weekend, and
if you had flipped the cars starting places, do you feel like Hamilton would have been able to hold on to it?
Yeah, actually.
His race pace was on it.
Yeah, I think he would have probably had a podium.
Yeah,
because Russ was up to like 3rd place,
and that's first turn. That's Hamilton's opinion. I was listening to an interview after, and he said it was just qualifying, and then to get hit with the 3 grid place penalty for impeding Checo, he was done. He was already done at P11.
Yeah. At that point, you're just trying to get points and get as many as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But if he was in 3rd place at the first corner, I think he would have held on to it.
Yeah, the insult to injury was that Lando Norris charged up his battery pack for the last 4 laps of the Grand Prix and just literally 100% deployment of the battery pack and ripped the fastest lap away from Hamilton, who pitted to get soft tires to put in the fastest lap. And Lando was like,
Yeah. Well,
I got a 30-point gap.
Ahead, you can do that.
You do what you want to do. Incredible. But Mercedes was probably, I think they're leaving going, what just happened? I do think for them, I often wonder how much of this season they're like, we aren't going to win the Constructors. It's a really long shot. It would be
difficult.
It would have to take a lot of insane circumstances for them to win.
Well, they're 100 points behind Ferrari.
Exactly.
And Ferrari's 60 points behind Red Bull. So
it's between Red Bull, McLaren, and maybe Ferrari if they pull it out. It's not that big of a gap, but it's still a big enough gap with how McLaren is performing. But for me, I wonder how much Mercedes is going, we know that.
Yeah.
So the drivers can do what the drivers want to do. We're using all of this season to gather as much information to really end this regulation of car well in 2025.
Yeah.
And to come out the gate swinging.
Yeah. And if they can actually, they have a North Star.
Mm-hmm.
They found it. They figured it out. They've won races this season when none of us expected them to.
100%.
And I think now, if they can get in like the top 3 constructors, maybe
even that would be
that's a bit of a stretch because
Ferrari.
Because they're over 100 points. So, or just under 100 points. But yeah, I think it's just try to continue to be competitive, try to keep winning if you can.
Yeah.
And look to next year at this point, which sucks to say that when you're coming back from summer break, that's kind of the best you can do, but it's the math at this point,
100%. Okay, let's jump into the trash teams, the ones that are just super lame.
Don't care anything about.
I'm going to lump 2 together, Alpine and Aston Martin. Give me your thoughts.
Well, Alpine, Gasly finally got past Ollie Behrman, who hasn't raced
Ollie Behrman's one race
season. It took him the whole season
I love
to get up to 14th place, but he's up into 14th now. So good on you, Gasly. You got 9th place today.
Gasman.
Ocon was 15th. I have no comments about Ocon. Also, can I just say this real quick?
Say it.
I don't want Ocon to be like the senior driver for Ollie Behrman.
We don't need Ollie Behrman to learn any of that crap.
We don't need him learning
no.
single thing. Also, Ocon is still behind Ollie Behrman.
Yep.
In points this season.
Yep.
So, anyway, that's my feels for next year for Haas. I don't know why they went with Ocon, but I guess they want someone who doesn't listen to team orders and doesn't care about his teammate, and that's what they're looking for, I guess.
Here's my bone to pick.
What is it?
Okay, well, let's start with Alpine because I don't really have one to pick. I'm with you on Ocon, whatever.
Yeah.
Done. I also didn't like him because he was complaining about the car, and he just, when he whines, it's like nails on a chalkboard.
I was literally going to say that. That was prime.
For whatever reason, the way that he just complained, it makes me want to actually have a physical reaction to it.
Yes.
And I'm a very kind person.
You are.
But I don't know what it is. There's something about it. I don't know if it's his height, maybe his lankiness. I'm not sure.
I mean, you're tall and lanky too.
Yeah, but not like that. Have you seen him in his race suit? It's terrifying. It looks like some kind of a science fiction movie.
He's a lanky guy.
Oh, my goodness. But Gasly was punching above his weight this week.
He was.
I don't know what he did on summer break.
Up like 3 or 4.
Incredible.
Places. He took over Alonso. Alonso's like, wait, who is this guy over here?
What's going on there, dude? And I was just like, man. Okay, so my bone to pick. So Gasly, I was really impressed with, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
I was like, it's a good weekend for Alpine.
Yeah,
brand new team boss there, hanging out. It seems to be this time of year where for the last 3 years they've like to change over their team boss. So they have their brand new team boss. We didn't even include that in the notes because it's just become white noise. Whatever happens, Alpine is so transient with their leadership team that you just kind of ignore all that happens. It's like in your baby's room when you turn the white noise on. That is their leadership team. It's just all going to change.
It will.
We don't need any of that. Absolutely. So that's that. My bone to pick is with 2 commentators this weekend.
Okay.
Jolyon Palmer and my beloved Sky F1 reporter. Do you know who I'm talking about?
If it's Sky, is it Crofty?
No, not Crofty. The old man, the old racer who comes in.
What did he say?
He said that Lance Stroll is doing what he needs to do this season and showing that he can drive equally with and get closer to Alonso. And
it's like a Disney situation where
I wanted
to
literally, I wanted to rip my hair out. I was like, how can we say this season?
This is not.
I don't care if he's driving better than last season. Data tells a story, Ben, and data does not lie. Data says that Alonso has 50 points and Stroll has 24. I feel like I'm taking freaking crazy pills.
Yes.
I feel like Magatu in Zoolander. I will not stand for this crap. No. He is not catching up to Alonso.
He is not.
He might have had a couple of good races where he might have outscored Alonso. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you think Alonso is trying at 10, 9th, 8th place, 11th place, 12th place? No.
Yeah.
He's letting you have it. This is not Alonso of last year, beginning of the season.
Well, because the car isn't the car of last year.
No. And I'm not going to sit here and you tell me that it's a new story when last year our friend Fernando Alonso had 206 points and Lance Stroll had 74. Extrapolate out what this year's points are, and we're looking at the exact same story.
Yeah, that's the same. It is the same. It will never change.
What is the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
You have just described the Aston Martin driver lineup.
there's rumors, and we're not really going to dive into this because it's rumor mill, but there are rumors that Adrian Newey goes to Aston Martin. That will mean nothing for them winning a Constructors' Championship if Stroll is still in the second seat. It doesn't matter if you bring the best of the best to your team to design the car. That guy is not going to win races.
But I don't know if it's going to change because they've always said, his father and him, that they want to win a championship
and
together.
I get it. It's the LeBron and Bronny thing, right? Where he wants to play with his son. So he's played for like 2 decades and his son's playing on the team now. But guess what? Bronny don't deserve to be on the Lakers.
No.
And I'm sorry, but you know that LeBron is talking to the management over there and saying, hey, get my son.
If you want me, grab him.
For another 3 years, get my son. That's what's happening. And again, I get it. The nostalgia, father, son, wanting to win together. That's phenomenal. I'd love to have the opportunity to do that with my boys in some sport or something in life. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I get it. But be honest about it.
Correct.
Just say that's what you want.
Your son is not a good driver.
Say, hey, guess what? My son is not the strongest driver in F1. He probably
never will be. No, not probably. He will not ever be.
He will not be. I want to win with him, though. So I'm never going to change him out until we win.
Just say it.
Just say that. Just be honest about it. Don't act like, okay, we're going to build this championship contending team.
Yeah.
You're not, as long as your Nepo baby son is there.
Yes.
So Alpine is a question for you. Is Alpine going to pass? Was it Haas this season?
Okay, so Ben and I have a bet. I think that Alpine is going to end in the middle of the pack.
That's not going to happen.
I am, at the moment, 9 races to go, sticking to my guns. I think they will finish bottom of the mid-pack.
Be mathematically impossible.
Bottom soon, but not yet. And I am a stubborn old goat.
I'm going to say by the Austin race, it will be mathematically impossible. Which is in 4 races. 4 races.
That's the end of October.
4 races.
Okay. Very cool. Well, we'll see. Okay. So Kick, Haas, Williams, RB.
Let's just do Kick. I don't care.
Correct.
They were
so
19th
we're done.
and 20th. We're done.
Although I will say, Bottas was.
We did talk about Bottas.
He was entertaining this weekend. My guy was ripping around the course, putting his elbows out. Oh,
he deserves a better car.
He was fighting in that car like he was in a Red Bull. He was miles off the pace. I loved it. I loved it. I think what he is feeling is like, okay, Carlos isn't getting the seat. I'm going to show him that if I want, I can really fight. That's what I feel. But yes. Kick is still nowhere. What are your thoughts around Williams?
Well,
this is an interesting one for me this week.
It's interesting. Logan was 16th. Albon was 14th. So they both outside the points. They did have some upgrades they brought. Logan is like a lame duck driver. He's been a lame duck this whole season because he's always been
interesting term
back. Well, right now in the United States, we have a current political leader who is not running for re-election, and there's a term. He's a lame duck president.
Come on, man.
Because once a president who could run for another term doesn't, people look beyond them.
Right.
They look to what's next. Logan is...
He's been booted.
He's
going to Indy next year. That's what the rumors are right now.
Good for him. Maybe he'll be more successful there. But
probably. He
has not succeeded in F1. And that's got to be a hard thing because I know that was his...
It's a hard thing. It's interesting to me. Okay, so they came with a brand new car chassis this week, which was it had a bunch of homologated pieces, which means it needed to be completely inspected again. So they changed their roll hoop design, which is basically like this like triangular section behind the driver's head where the air intake is for when it rolls over. It hits that. Now, that is a safety piece. So if you bring that, you're redesigning the entire chassis. So they basically bought a brand new car. Now, Albon performed a lot better in qualifying.
Yeah.
The reason why they did this is because they wanted to lower their center of gravity and they had too much weight at the roll hoop. It's the highest point of the car. So they want to lower that. So they made it out of a strong but lighter material. Anyway, this is boring now.
No.
My whole point is this. after all of that, Logan crashes the new car in FP3, catches on fire, is like in the car saying, "I'm so sorry, guys." And they're like, yeah, dude, it's on fire. Get out. And he like freaks out, gets out of the car. He finishes P16. Albon finishes
P14.
That doesn't feel like they really worked the way they wanted them to.
No.
If Sargent in the old spec, because he blew up the first one, is finishing in P16.
Two spaces back.
2 spaces back.
I don't know how far back it was, like how much space there was between the two of them, but if that was like an extra lap,
it can't be good.
Plus 1 lap, I don't know.
Albon was at some points today, he was flirting with points, and he was showing his flashes of brilliance. But honestly, William desperately needs to figure it out. They need to pick it up.
Yeah, and this is where, I have zero confidence in next year.
100%.
Now, again, I know McLaren, switched it around in a year, so it can happen. I just don't get those vibes from Williams right now, especially with new specs, and this is the result that they're getting.
Yeah.
So. We'll see, though. Their car historically has been a slippery car. Fast in a straight line. Next week is Monza. Maybe they have a better result.
Mm-hmm.
You think Logan gets a point before he goes off into the sunset?
Doubtful.
Yeah.
Doubtful. It's too competitive this year.
No.
I mean, a 7-time world champion in a competitive car qualified P12. 0.04 of a second was between the times of getting into that's getting out of Q2.
Yeah.
That's nuts, dude.
We have 7 race winners this year.
Yes. We've also have races where previous to this weekend, the lead of the race changed 17 times.
Unreal.
Over the course of 3 races alone.
Yeah.
We swapped leaders of the race 17 times. It is quickly becoming a very competitive and very entertaining year.
It is a great time to be an F1 fan. I feel like it's a terrible time to be a certain F1 driver.
What do you talk on it? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, there's certain drivers where you're not going to get any points.
Yep.
You're never going to get close to winning because it's too competitive now. And you happen to be on the wrong team in the wrong car. So for Logan, this was a terrible time to be an F1 driver.
Right.
It's way too competitive and you're not up to snuff and you're in a car that, isn't fast. So it's I think it's great for us because it's so competitive, but the field and the haves and haves nots are so stark at this point where for some drivers, sorry, just a bummer. Hopefully you like racing because you're not getting any points and you're not getting close to winning. You're not even going to get close to a podium.
No. And it's interesting because it does feel like that. It's whatever team you're on, which is originally why Formula One started. It wasn't about the driver. It was about the teams. Even the Drivers' Championship has 0 money attached to it.
It's a team championship.
But what do we love?
I mean,
we love the player, baby.
We do. But the drivers win, though, for the races they win. There's money involved with that.
Within their own teams. Red Bull pays them.
Yeah.
But according to Formula One and the governing body of the FIA, that's all only attributed to the actual teams themselves. It's the Constructors' Championship is where the money is, which is it's the ironic part. Yeah. And this year, that race is tight. There are 3 teams that have the potential to be the 2024 world champions.
We were in the doldrums last season.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to find
things to talk about. You were loving it.
I was.
This was last year's. Everyone says it's boring right now, but you're going to look back and you're going to say, I was standing in history. Okay, shut
Every
up.
week.
I was saying in 20 seconds watching Max just literally paint his nails while he drove around every track.
Crofty was like, guys, you're giving me P18 and 19 to try to hype up here at the end of the race.
I will say, okay, what happens if now McLaren is 22 seconds ahead of everyone for the rest of the year? Will it be boring again?
It won't be because they'll be chasing down Red Bull.
Exactly.
And they'll be chasing down Max. So we will see, in order for them to make the Drivers' Championship competitive, that's what they have to do.
Yeah.
And it will take us to the end.
Mm-hmm.
It will be one of the last races where it's either a couple points separate them, and it's winner take all.
Yeah.
Which is what we want. So even if it is that big of a margin, it's still the tension of, oh my God, Max might lose. He might actually lose a driver's championship. And that just builds until.
Oh, it's so exciting.
It's great.
It's going to be
phenomenal
incredible
for the sport. So we'll see.
Okay. We need predictions. So there's an Audi seat open. Who do you think is going to fill it? There's also a Mercedes seat open. Who do you think is going to fill it?
Well,
it's Kimi, right? It's got to be.
I mean, there's been rumors of Bottas
for one season.
I mean,
but if he goes if Audi keeps him on,
if Audi offers him a multi-year deal,
yeah.
If it's a 1 year to a 1 year, I mean, I'd go to Merck. You
1 year to 100%.
You prove your stuff.
The paycheck alone.
Oh God! And you show, hey, I can still go win races.
Yes.
And then you become more competitive and more desirable, and people want you for the next year.
Especially with the trajectory that Mercedes is on right now.
Yeah. So he might go there, but I don't. This is tough because there's still potential movement that has yet to happen. If Lawson is guaranteed a Red Bull seat, then that means either Danny Rick or Yuki are going to vacate. A contract.
Danny Rick does not.
Yes, but I don't really trust a Red Bull contract.
I don't either.
So, but
I'm just presenting the facts.
Appreciate that. Data tell the story. So it may be that one of those drivers has to bounce down to another team because they're out of a contract because Lawson's
totally.
So I honestly, I have zero idea.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to be Bottas. I feel like they'll hold on to Bottas. I feel like they're kind of in a holding pattern. They have Nico. They got Nico. They wanted Nico.
Yeah.
They didn't get Carlos. They want a big name for 2026.
Yeah.
Bottas is a name. He's a great driver. He has a lot more wins.
He's
than
a great
most people on
driver.
the track.
He's a great driver. We just haven't seen it.
No.
Because he's been in a bad car.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
But that's contingent still.
Mercedes, you think it's going to be Kimi? I don't know who else.
I mean,
I don't think they'll go back.
He's young. He's young.
He's very young. But why wouldn't you take the risk in 2025? It is last season.
Yeah, I mean, it's the time to do it, I guess.
He's had a bit of a rough road with his F2 career. Like, he's not doing too well right now. It's a big risk, and as a Mercedes team fan, I'm nervous about.
You roll the dice, and George, yes, has had, some good performances this year. I still need to be sold on him as the lead driver.
I'm with you. I don't see the consistency.
Part of me thinks maybe Toto's like, okay, maybe we bring him in, but we bring in Bottas to kind of help George continue to mature.
Okay. Ooh, this is nice.
Right?
I like this.
For 1 year, he knows it's a 1 year deal. We get Bottas back in. He's familiar with the team. He helps George continue to mature. And then 2026, Kimi's in. But I don't know where Kimi goes. Kimi would have to find a seat somewhere else.
They make him his reserve driver, the Mercedes reserve driver.
That makes
That's what Doohan did. He was reserve driver for Alpine. Gets a seat.
That makes sense because I'm still not sold on George. Like I'm sold on Lando. I'm sold on
Piastri.
Chuck. I'm sold on Piastri. I'm not. When I look at George, I'm like,
something's missing.
You're still not the lead.
Yeah.
Like yes, you can win. We know that, but you're not the lead driver.
And my follow-up question is do you think that George Russell is an android? Like, is he an actual human being? Like, have you seen him in the middle of an interview?
He's like, looking,
yeah, it was a great Sunday. Kind of smiles.
He has a certain way of carrying himself.
It's hilarious. Yeah. It's hilarious. Oh man. Okay, and then Monza, the Temple of Speed. It's coming up. Italy.
Well, Ferrari's going to want to put their best foot forward.
Yeah, they're not going to, but yes, they're going to want to.
They might get a podium.
Okay, they might get a podium.
Chuck might get a podium.
What is your predictions?
I'm going to go McLaren 1-2.
I should have gone first.
And then I'm going to go Max third.
Lando or Piastri?
I mean,
Lando's got the mo, bro. He's got the big mo.
Lando today, I was like, there he is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Lando.
I think there's gonna be a poetic 1-2 in Monza on merit this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be a redeeming moment for Chuck. I mean, not for Chuck, for Lando, because the first 1-2, he was told to hang back.
Yeah.
And
he like stopped. It was like, just hang back. Hang back.
Yeah. No. That was this year.
That was this year.
But I mean, like with
in
Danny.
Monza. Yeah.
In Monza, he was told to, because he was running faster.
He was.
But they just kept it safe and they played it. And he did that 1-2. So I think he'll win 1-2. I think it'll be Chuck. I think it'll be I don't know why I keep calling him Chuck. I think it'll be Lando.
Because we want Chuck to win. He ain't going to win.
It'll be Lando, Piastri, and then I think it'll be Max. And then I think Ferraris will be after that.
Yeah. The Ferraris, they were lucky today.
What's really exciting about these predictions is that I looked back and Ben and myself have gotten exactly 0 correct the entire season. So it's going to be
I thought you were going to say we were like tied on our predictions, which we are.
No, we're tied on sucking. Yeah, it's terrible. Anyway.
So you should listen to us because we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, 100%, obviously. Okay, thank you for joining us for this episode as we recapped the summer break, the Dutch Grand Prix, Lando's victory, Max's P2, and Chuck's surprise P3.
Headed to Italy next week.
Heading to Italy. As always, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Shoot us a message on Instagram. We'd love to engage with you. Chat all things F1. We'll see you next week. Grazie.
See you, folks.